Most people hear $750 million in debt, and they freeze. Our strategy here's a different question. Not how big is the number, but what is the debt attached to, how is it structured, and who is actually paying it down? Debt is not automatically dangerous. Debt becomes dangerous when it is floating, short-term, under-reserved, and dependent on perfect conditions. Productive leverage is different. It is tied to an asset that generates durable cash flow. It has a path to stabilization, and it can withstand shifts in rates, rents, and credit conditions without forcing a sale. Mechanically, the entire equation comes down to debt service coverage. If the property cash flow covers the payment with room to spare, the asset is carrying the debt. But if the loan depends on a near-term refinance, interest-only structures, or continuously rolling short maturities, then the leverage is really a timing bet on liquidity. That is where markets misread risk. People model the pro forma and ignore the sequence. First you build, then you lease, then you stabilize, then you refinance if the window is open. If any step slips while funding tightens, debt stops being an accelerant and becomes a trigger. In our phase framework, structured leverage behaves well in Phase 1 and early Phase 2, when liquidity is stable and refinancing channels are functioning. It becomes fragile in Phase 3, when credit spreads widen and lenders pull back. And it can break in Phase 4, when forced selling emerges and correlations compress. Our current probability band is conditional. We assign roughly a 60% probability that well-structured, fixed-rate, cash-flowing real estate debt remains serviceable through June 2026. We also assign roughly a 40% probability that refinancing stress increases into late 2026, particularly for floating-rate bridge exposure, as funding costs and lender standards reprice. This is an educational analysis, not investment advice, and it is designed to frame risk through probabilities rather than predictions. If you value structured macro frameworks that focus on signals, sequencing, and survivability across cycles, consider subscribing. The goal is not more noise. It is clearer thinking about liquidity, credit, and capital structure as regimes shift. What we continue to monitor is straightforward: stable debt service coverage, laddered maturities rather than clustered refinancing, orderly credit spreads, functional transaction markets. What would invalidate stability is equally clear: rising delinquencies, persistent spread widening, funding stress, and a sudden freeze in refinancing activity. Our strategy does not evaluate debt by size. We evaluate it by structure, liquidity alignment, and whether it can survive the next recession without requiring rescue capital.